A single book title whispered across the globe, The Secret. It promised something we'd all been longing to hear, that the universe isn't cold, random, or indifferent, but alive, responsive, and that our thoughts, our very consciousness, shape our reality. That idea, though not new, struck like lightning. For millions, it was the first step out of a life defined by powerlessness. A door cracked open, revealing a glimmer of something ancient and infinite. But here's the question we're exploring today. What was really hidden behind The Secret? And why do so many of its followers end up more frustrated than free? Welcome to Higher Reality, where science and spirituality meet the edge of understanding.
Her process of doing that work turned into The Secret movie. And she was a movie producer, so it was a perfect thing for her to get into. And it really did change the whole movement.
I was just amazed at how fast the book caught on. It doesn't surprise me that it caught on in the Western world and barely made a dent in the rest of the world.
I would say it was the movie that caught on. I'm not sure it was the book, but
the book was a bestseller before the movie.
Well, I'm sure it was after the movie.
Probably so. But it was packaged so well.
It was. She did a great job. She's a good producer.
And Bob Proctor said, she really knows marketing upside down and backwards.
She got it. She did it well. And it was soon followed by that other one, What the Bleep. Remember that one?
Sure. Which I liked better, actually.
Well, I did too, because it had more science in it.
Yeah.
It had more information in it, rather than just saying you can do this.
Rather than, to make a whole book out of raising your vibration is a real trick in itself.
Oh, amen to that. But
so this
at
week,
least it opened
last week,
people up to that possibility.
What's that?
I say it opened people up to that possibility.
Yeah, it's true. And there were millions of people that flooded into all the different, workshops and events and Life Springs.
Barbara had a banner made. And our main sign out on the highway, she put a banner below that said, "The Secret taught here." And then when people would come to her classes, she would show them the book, The Secret, which is what The Secret is.
So when The Secret hit, it was like a spiritual revolution. It sold millions of copies. The movie was an extraordinary hit. And Oprah was talking about it, and other people started visioning boards and looked to change their whole life.
Exactly.
It was insanely popular very quickly, it seems to me. Don't you?
We were already in the metaphysical movement, so it immediately caught our attention. So and seemed like it was giving accurate information. So what's to be against? But it was definitely involved in a secular movement as well, because it was in the general theaters and people were talking about it far beyond any existing groups. So that growth and development around that was exciting and exceptional in many ways.
But it was all about the law of attraction, which many people don't understand, had been around already for 75 years or more.
Or longer. It's in the original textbook published in 1926.
Older than I am, anyway.
Holmes got it from somebody. He didn't create that.
No, I think it was William Adkins. He was a writer. He wrote under a bunch of different names who used it, and he wrote in 1900. And then, of course, it might have been popular before that. I don't know. But the whole law of attraction, recap that for all those who didn't see the last episode.
Okay. Well, the law of attraction is the concept that what we think about is what we're creating in our lives. That by having a thought about some outcome, that we're actually impressing upon the universe, upon life itself, that's what we're calling to us. Like is attracted to like. So that's the general idea of it. And of course, that also means that the things that we don't want, the things we're afraid of, the things we have anxiety around, when we're focused on them, we're drawing that to our lives as well. So the work is to pay attention to what you're focused on. Is what I got from the bottom line from the law of attraction, is that pay attention to what you're thinking about, and what you'll get is the things that you want rather than the things that you claim you don't want. that you're drawing to you when you think about them.
And the whole idea being the brain is wired for what we fear.
Exactly. The brain seems to be wired that way. We
Yeah.
seem to put all our attention on what we imagine is wrong. And it's also true that we imagine things being wrong much more than they really are. The reality
Right.
of it isn't anywhere near what we're imagining.
Yeah.
But by thinking about those things a lot, we draw them into our reality.
Yeah.
And then we're stuck with something that we didn't want, which is powerful information.
It's totally powerful, and and like I say, it is totally a stepping stone, because the idea that we're attracting something in, the next step is we have to realize that's got separation. It means that we're trying to manipulate the world. And if we're trying to manipulate the world, we're always on a treadmill, because everything is always changing. So if it's
Constantly
always
changing.
changing, we have to come to some realization that there's something else. What's the next piece to this puzzle? And that's what was missing out of Rhonda Byrne's work. It brought us right up to that point, and then it left us. And like you said before, the movie What the Bleep had more science to it and gave us more kind of what is this unified field and Bell's theorem and so on. And that was great stuff. I think the next point is that we have to realize that we came into this world and we're indoctrinated into the idea that we're separate from everybody else and everything else.
Well, that's what our senses tell us.
Of course.
Our ability to hear and speak and touch and taste and smell all tell us that there's something outside to relate to. And we do have an environment, but that's not the highest reality. That's nowhere near the highest reality.
Right.
It's just what our body can tell us.
It's the mistake, the big mistake, as most traditions, early traditions will tell us, that's the mistake, is that actually we're seeing everything in the world through rose-colored glasses, and everybody has a different version of those pair of glasses.
And we each think that the thing we're experiencing is the true reality.
Right, exactly.
So we'll bet our lives on it, that's the way things are.
Absolutely.
Even though it can all change in a heartbeat.
And that's why we have so many arguments.
That's probably true.
So this new way of looking is the idea that there isn't anything else other than us being the higher self.
Right.
Whereas the Rhonda Byrne and her work and all the others are talking about the mental process that we go through and how we change that. And that puts our mind in constant flux as to whether it's going to happen, not going to happen. When it does, we're all excited and it falls away. And that treadmill wears us out.
It does.
What happens to people?
We think we have to manage everything that happens in our lives down to the minutia. It is exhausting. You're absolutely right.
So that treadmill, at some point, people are going to get tired to the point to where they're going to let go and walk away. And you and I are probably seeing that in a lot of the metaphysical churches, where there are people that are just gone now that used to flock in. I mean, like Terry Cole Whitaker's, 4,000 people in San Diego. Now, I don't think she could draw 25 people anymore.
It seems to be a different way of being in the world right now. Part of that is I think that the younger generation isn't interested in anything organized like this. They're kind of on their own journey with a handful of friends. And the problem with that is that they don't know what they don't know.
Correct. Yeah.
And because they don't know it, they think what they've got is it. And it's not. And who knows? I mean, when did we start to figure it out?
They're the product
in my 30s.
Yeah. And they're the product of a generation all about materialism.
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
And since they're watching, parents doing this stuff of getting a new car and a different relationship and whatever else, they're going, oh, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And now they're educated into that, and they're looking at this and going, like we used to say, that's woo-woo stuff. I don't care about that. I just want the new car.
And at the same time, there's a level of being unfulfilled.
Yes.
And I think one place where you can see that is in this whole movement. What's it called? Turning Point USA.
Oh, right.
Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated, and how droves of young people are now interested in that because they just heard about it. They just figured it out. And not that that is necessarily the answer, that particular path, but you can tell that young people are looking for something.
Oh, they are. And worldwide, not just,
Yes.
in this particular country, because I see that in the travels, and I see that where the young people actually are living on the surface, and something keeps calling to them and they're not sure what. There's no place for them to go to figure it out.
Right. They just know that that they're not complete, that there's something more.
Yeah,
they
I
haven't
just
a clue
did.
how to find it.
I did 4 years of college. I did 6 years of college. I did 8 years of college, and I got out and I'm shuffling hamburgers at Jack in the Box.
Really?
I'm lost. Or I've gone 10 years and I'm now a doctor, and I don't like the way this is going anymore. I don't feel complete. What's wrong with this picture? Oh, Rhonda Byrne. Let me think about how I think. Well, that's a good step, and it helps. You and I think when we got into Science of Mind, there was a part of me that was like, wow, that's an intriguing idea. How that works. Never thought about it as a mental process.
Early on, I had no interest in anything that seemed wooey. I just completely ignored all that. And some people would give me things to read, and I'd read a little bit and go, this doesn't make any sense to me. I don't care. But once I broke through it with my own awakening, it was very painful. But as I broke through it, I went, oh my God, there's an entire different world. And that's actually what I'm writing about in my new book, Spirits Awakening, which will come out in 2026. In the meantime, that's how I did it. I had to lose everything to open up to a possibility beyond that. And when I opened up to it, it showed up immediately. I didn't have to wait for it. I mean, it's almost like, even though I went halfway around the world to find it, I didn't know I was looking for it. And it came up and bit me right away and told me, this is where you need to go. And I listened, and it was an amazing awakening for me. So everybody has that potential within them, but it's not always a pleasant. In fact, it's often not a pleasant journey to get there. Once you get there and you go, oh, this is different. This is a different way of seeing the universe. But everything changes.
You said something really important here that I have found in this awakening process. So many people crash and burn before they wake up.
It's called the awakening paradox, written by Carl Jung. Identified in his own awakening that it was incredibly painful. His separation from Freud and how things went for a while had him questioning himself and wondering, and then everything sort of shifted when he started to get it. And I think, go ahead.
I was going to say, the thing for me was, when that happened for me, was it created a space, an opening for something different.
Exactly.
And that's where I went with it. I went into Science of Mind with it and found, like-minded people around me going, yeah, I crashed too.
Oh, I've listened to stories. I've asked ministers the story, how'd you find this? And I've heard great stories. One was of a person who was in a driving rainstorm and her car broke down. And it broke down right in front of the Hollywood Church of Religious Science. She went in to use the phone, and there was a group meeting there. And out of that, everything changed.
Yeah.
And she became a minister in our movement. So, there's all kinds of crazy ways to get it started. Once it starts, I don't know that if you're really paying attention, you can walk away from it. Although I will say that in being in spiritual community for 35 years, I saw plenty of people walk away. Most of them, if they went away disgruntled, especially with me, that in 6 months or a year or even longer, at some point they would come back and they go, I kind of lost it. I was on this path. I thought I had it, and then it was gone. And what I attribute that to is that there's this ability we have as groups of like-minded people to evolve through this, to do our exploration side by side, to see what it is that we don't know, and to help one another along the way. And that when we try to do it on our own, that old thing about the stuff that's not working coming to the front of our mind grows stronger and can take back over. Although the difference now is that you can see it. You know what's happening. You go, oh, I don't want this. There's something better.
You're right. There's so many stories that are like that in the idea of a group setting where there's other people going through the same thing, and you can see what they're doing, and you can say, oh, I just went through this as well, is a great help. And the thing that finally moved me from that experience to the experience of what is now known as non-duality was the idea that the world that I'm seeing is the world that I've created from my mind, which is not me.
No, it's just what you've
ego.
chosen to believe.
Yeah. That's all the beliefs and everything in the ego mind. And the ego mind struggles all the time with all of that stuff. And yet there's something higher and greater within us. And Ernest and Neville and all of the great teachers of the time pointed to it constantly. I was so amazed when I finally found this and went back and read Neville and Ernest and all, and went, God, they've been saying this all the way through.
I know. And yet every generation has to rediscover it.
I read those books and go, this is all mental stuff, and I can do this and work this and so on. And I go back and I go, hey, they're talking about that's just your stepping stone to this next thing, which is you are it. And
exactly.
Ernest was great about the way he phrased it, but I do think some of the phrasing of those early teachers, I just completely missed it.
Well, Ernest, I believe, was a bridge builder, because a lot of what he writes in his early writings really had the elements of the Judeo-Christian ethic. And he refers, even though he seems at times so clear about the non-dualistic essence of life, yet he'll refer to the divine as a person in those terms. And that always kind of drives me nuts because I'm past that. But he needed to do that to pull in people that thought that way.
Sure.
And I get it and I understand it. But now I understand that if I'm looking for the divine, I need not look any further than me, and not my ego and not my intellect, but the essence of who and what I am is that divine presence, which takes us, of course, to the I am.
And that's a different kind of practice. And what I've found is I used to try to meditate, and for, a year and a half, I would sit every single morning for an hour to do meditation. And all it did was build up the noise in my head louder and louder and louder. And I go, come on, what's going on? And finally, when I read Robert Adams, a teacher, and he says, just sit and ask the question, where'd this thought come from? And he says, every time you ask that, the thought disappears.
Yes.
And he says, the more you ask that, the less it generates. And I went, wow, I got to try that. And I was astounded at it. The other thing he said is just ask, to whom does this come? To who is it that's listening to the thought?
Ah, there you go.
Now that one blew my mind. I'm going, oh, there is a voice here and there's something listening to the voice.
My first spiritual teacher said it this way: become aware of being aware.
Yeah.
Gives you that space to actually see who you are, because normally you can't. You're the observer. That's all you are. All you can do is observe life the way it comes to you. But if you'll separate yourself from it just 1 degree, you start to get, oh, this is the essence of me.
The beauty of finally getting to that place, kind of in strange words, getting to that place, but the beauty of this is that then you can let go of trying to create everything in your life, because it creates because of who you are, not because of what you're attracting to who you are.
And the effort actually gets in the way.
Yeah.
Whereas if your mind is clear, if you know who you are and you expect things to work out, they tend to work out. And when they don't, it's simply another opportunity to go deeper in an understanding of the self.
And the next step for me was realizing that everybody out there and everything out there that's going on is a projection out of who my ego is.
Absolutely.
pointing to the fact that there's something I need to look at. And in
Effort and
that,
ego go hand in hand.
everything was an effort, and everything I see out there, I go, well, that's them, that's not me. What do I have to do with that? Let that go. And then I would fuss over it for another week or two, let it go, and sooner or later it would be back. And over I would do that. Now I don't. I look at it and go, oh,
Right. Oh, there's
that's just
okay.
what is.
It's as far as you can go with it.
Yeah.
I'm aware of what's happening. That's it. That's all you need. Another tool that I've found very helpful that I use in my teaching is those 4 phases of consciousness. The idea that life happens to me, which is where most people live.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that I'm a victim or things don't go the way I want, and some outside force is imposing this stuff on me. That's the first step. And then you move into a state of by me, where you realize you really do have an ability to influence how things unfold in your life. And that's a powerful stage. It's a stage where you start to get a sense of who you really are, but you don't stop there, because the next stage would be that life moves through you or through us, and that we are a filament of sort for the expression and experience of life, which is an even more powerful way to detach from trying to control and manipulate it all. And of course, the final stage is as me, saying that consciousness, which is the formation of all that exists, dwells at the point of me. And that's not a place of ego. That's a place that is calm and humbling, and holds us at knowing that we are responsible for our experience, beginning to end, top to bottom, and inside out.
That's a great model for learning what's going on. And part of this for me was I had to compare everything to the science that, I was trained in. And once I got from nuclear physics into quantum physics, that whole world shifted.
Yes.
And I'm going, that world is shifting. My inner world is shifting. Everything is shifting. And when in quantum physics, they talk about the observer effect, they talk about waveform collapse, that all of the various things that they're discovering, every time they do that, they get to a point of saying, this is it. And then it isn't.
This is it today.
Yeah, today, this is it. What did help me was the idea that these theories have assumptions that they're based on, and they don't work without the assumption, but they don't explain the assumption.
Right. They just stated as fact.
So I said, I can apply that to anything. I just make an assumption based on this. Like the math that they use sometimes is an assumption that actually works and has something to do with it.
And everybody uses this because they have some belief within themselves that something is so. That belief materializes through the law of attraction or the law of reflection or whatever other way you want to call the law, and it shows up, and then you go, well, that proves it right there, that I'm right.
Yeah.
So all that you're right about is that you have a thought, that thought materializes into your life. That's the flow. That's how it works. That's the high reality.
I should say also that when I was doing the meditation and all of the noise that was going on, I'd get involved in stories and it'd take me way off into Never Land, because I was projecting where it was going to go and what was going to happen, which we all do. We just take that thought and run with it. Now, the interesting part that shifted for me is all that could be going on now, and I pay no attention to it.
Exactly.
I don't get lost in the story constantly.
Right.
It's a totally different way of living because, well, as we said, it's all those things we were just talking about. It's a much easier because I don't have to control a single thing in my life.
Exactly. You just need to know who you are. If you know who you are, the rest is all minutia.
There is no me. There's only it.
Yes.
So when I discover it, everybody in the universe and everything in the universe has discovered it at the same time.
There you go.
Now that's a paradox, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So back to Rhonda Byrne. Rhonda Byrne was one. I was talking about how Bob Proctor was approached by her and did part of the film and interviews in the film. He was also one who was big about, you can change your thinking and change your life. Today, there's Tony Robbins and there's, Joe Dispenza, and many others. What I found was they're very appealing to the emotional side of the argument. They bring you in to the conversation through you can be great. And we buy into that because that's what we want. We want everybody to see us as being it. And I was at that point of getting tired of all of those things. So talking to these people, I could see where they were coming from and how it was just as much a part of the ego as my mind was creating.
Right.
And so I guess the next part of the conversation is, where can we apply this in our life that's not manifesting something out in the world, but rather, how do I turn inward and work on this?
Well, there are several elements that I would recommend anybody use. And the first one is to get off letting your environment create your state of affect. That if things are going in a way you'd like around you, you can be happy. And if you have things happening that you don't feel that wonderful about, and you feel sad or angry or confused or afraid, that you go with that. If you're running your life that way, you're going to have ups and downs like crazy. It's going to be blood or nose bleeding time for you. Whereas if you'll just let it all be, not get attached to it, step away from it, even though you could make an argument that somehow you've been done wrong or things didn't work out well, you could argue that. But if instead you say, this is simply where I am, everything is fine, then you move on from there. Not necessarily an easy task, but certainly worth pursuing and way easier to get where you want to go if you're in a joyous state.
Yeah. And the other thing for me is, and I think for a lot of people that I've talked to, the idea that we're trying to meditate on something, and there are thousands and thousands of different kinds of meditations.
Yes.
I think the one that works for the Western world, at least for the people I know in the Western world, is the idea to just sit quiet and watch it. Watch the thoughts come and go.
Right, watch them just go by.
Yeah. And just keep there. And when you drift into the story, or you drift into projecting what's going to take place as a result of it, you just become aware of it and come back to it. That, for me, was easier than anything for a start, and harder than hell.
Yeah, I think what I agree with you completely, that you'll find more in that silent space between your breaths than you will from any other thing. So all these people that love to have guided meditations, they're nice. I've done them. I've done many of them. So I know what that is, but that's like taking a journey, and your mind continues to be actively involved in that engagement rather than having to separate and detach from all of that and still simply be.
I used to do a lot of those meditation, do them online and do them in classes and stuff. And I realized all I was doing is I was hypnotizing people with my voice.
Right. You were, as was I. And people would call me and go, oh, it was so wonderful. I loved it. Well, of course you loved it. Yeah. And how is your life better for this? Well, how much more aware are you at a spiritual level because of it?
Are you aware of being aware?
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
no. So the other part of this is you need to stop efforting at all of this stuff and kind of come back to, you're all you need. Yeah. And all the work you need to do is not in the world, it's within yourself. Yeah. And to get to that place, you can go into meditation and be quiet. You can follow the space between the thoughts, as Deepak says, until it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And don't effort at it. Once you have, I guess the way to say it, once you've committed to that, there seems to be something that works for you, that's inside. so that you don't struggle at it. And it begins to unfold on its own, everything you need. And the beauty of once you have gotten to a certain point, that happens in the outer world for you.
Exactly.
You don't have to struggle at it. I was close to retirement before I figured that out, but
well, the fact that you figured it out at all puts you far ahead of most people on the planet in that journey, in that pursuit. So
yeah, it's nice that I do love having a library full of books that I don't read anymore. But the quantum physics side of things is, like, for me, it was always something that kept me moving in the right direction. I would go, wow, so atoms are just vibrations? And then I would think about what we're looking at in class, and there's nothing there. All of those were so intriguing to me, and I realized over time how powerful that is in grabbing my mind.
Yes.
It grabs it and works it. And that took a long time to recognize that the thing that I loved the most was the thing that also kind of stood in the way of what I wanted to be and do.
The paradox of life. We take physical form and we use these bodies to be in this three-dimensional world. And how do you not accept that what your senses are telling you are real? It really takes some jolting to break free from that. I think that's why the whole idea of awakening is so often, if not always, connected to some sense of trauma. Having gone through something, so that you're willing to let something go so that you can see something greater. And we're all on that journey. We're all finding our way on it, if not in this life, hopefully in the next or the one after that. But we are all on the journey. Nobody is here not on that path of moving beyond an attachment to our physical form. And at the same time, we have to bless our bodies. What great tools to have.
It's the idea of it being a tool is foreign to a lot of people, I would think.
Most everybody. They identify with it. They say they are their body,
well,
or they are their mind, or they are their feelings.
They're all of that.
We're not any of those things. Those are the things that we use.
Yeah, boy, and that's a very hard thing for a materialist, because that is everything.
Oh, sure. Look at athletes.
Yeah.
They are totally attached to their bodies, their abilities. That's how they identify at all is by their bodies. And it's not that it's a bad thing. It's not that it's wrong. It's that it holds you to a certain level of consciousness. And at some point that's maybe you want to go a little further than that.
Sure. Well, all of it does. I mean, quantum physics does that for me. I mean, it identifies that I am this scientist, and that's not who I am. That's the part I'm playing in this lucid dream, and who I am is still asleep in bed. And we've got to get to the point where, look, I think that's a great analogy in terms of, or metaphor in terms of awakening is, consciousness is asleep, dreaming this dream, and we are the character in the dream. And the character in the
lot of what we gain in information as learning, I think that more of it's about awakening, about remembering.
Yeah.
Maybe not remembering from something else, but hearing something or experiencing something and going, I know that. I know that's right. And that carries you to a different level of consciousness.
Yeah, and it's a remembrance without thought.
Yes, no, a lot of it has nothing to do with thought. When I lived in Australia, one of the exercises that I did was called energy conversion. And it was working with an individual, looking into their eyes and completely stopping your thought process as best you could. And strangely, and I don't know why, I had the ability to do that. I could turn off my thoughts and just be there. But what would happen is, after doing it for not that long a time, because the sessions were normally an hour, but doing it long enough that the person would disappear. And then there would be images there that I would see, like dreams,
Mm.
like memories. This stuff would just kind of come up out of my subconscious mind. And it
Mm.
was fascinating, and I could detach myself from it and sort of let it go. It was quite fascinating.
So would you say that's a form of lucid dreaming?
Maybe. Well, it was certainly delving. It was a system or a process for delving into the unconscious or the subconscious, letting things show up that you could consciously just let go, just move on. So I found it incredibly powerful. I've done that with a number of people.
Yeah, I would, for me, the unconscious is an endless stream, and I would think that I would spend the rest of my multiple lives trying to
Well, but
to resolve those.
there's stuff that rises to the surface, and that
Yeah,
tends to be what shows up
yeah, yeah.
because our subjective has access to all information.
But
That's the idea of the one mind.
when you have something rising to the surface, there's always something underneath the surface.
That's true. That's
So
true.
the surface goes
Oh, it's
away and
endless.
something else becomes it. Yeah. That's the way my mind has always worked. Here's what's at the surface. I deal with it and move on. And then there's more to deal with and move on. I don't want that kind of treadmill.
Okay.
And because I don't even like treadmills. I don't get on a treadmill. I don't exercise on a treadmill.
I get it.
So, what's the last thing that you can impart to a viewer about this whole idea of the movement from the secret, which is beautiful, and what's beyond that?
I would say that the thing that comes to mind most importantly is to create a relationship with the I am, is to recognize that old story in Genesis about Moses and the burning bush and calling the divine I am is a brilliant notion, because that's the thing we want to know about ourselves, beyond ego, beyond restraint, beyond anything in the physical expression of life, is that the divine dwells at the point of us. And what I've taken many of my audiences through is the idea of identifying, well, God, because that's the word that generally is used there. And I would ask them, what is the name of God? And they would know, I am. And I would say, God's name is, and they would go, I am. And I said, so who is God? I am. Oh. And if you work from that place, then what you're doing is your voice is the voice of the divine. Your word is the word of the divine. Your essence is the essence of the divine. And from there, you are unlimited in your ability to experience life fully. And I'm not talking about, massive things that change the world, but it could be very subtle things that reveal a deeper sense of your presence and why you're here and what is yours to do.
I agree totally. And I think it's why so many people run to the Michael Singers and Eckhart Tolle's, is because they see that embodied.
Yes.
And they go, well, I want to know that.
Yeah.
What is that? Let me find that. That's Ramana Maharshi and Yogananda and all these beautiful people. Neville. I mean, Neville taught with the Science of Mind School.
Right.
And that was a man who had an amazing journey, and people, Neville Goddard is who I'm speaking of.
Yes.
His books, if you read them, he takes you on that journey of what he was when he got this information in New York, born overseas, Barbados, I think, and many others. And also with, I can't think of the guy's name now all of a sudden. That's the joy of being so young. Wayne Dyer.
Wayne Dyer.
Wayne Dyer actually was inspired by Neville Goddard.
Oh, I'm sure.
And that opened the door for him he didn't really recognize before.
And Wayne Dyer was out there selling Science of Mind, even using some of our catchphrases.
We had him in Marin. He came and did, his stage thing that he did back then. When this was probably 91, 90. And he was barefoot walking back and forth across the stage, doing it. And he totally has a hypnotic way of speaking.
He does.
And he would speak a lot of this stuff. The thing about him I really, really liked was he really was pushing himself to discover.
Yes.
to understand and to know what this was. And you could feel that in him.
Right. Right. You could feel the same thing from Ram Dass.
Yet, I was just thinking of Ram Dass. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Somehow Wayne Dyer and Ram Dass end up in the same circle in my mind.
Well, they came 2 months
time.
apart from each other. When we saw Wayne Dyer, we saw Ram Dass in Marin, and Ram lived in Marin for a while. And so he would speak occasionally, and there would be 700-800 people in the crowd.
Right.
And he was just, he was brilliant in the fact that he never answered anybody's question directly. He always pointed them to something more important within themselves.
He was good at that. He was good at that. I've only had one encounter with Ram Dass. It was at the University of Miami. It was in a lecture hall, rather large one, and I was somewhere in the middle of the room. And there was a point while he sat cross-legged on the stage that he and I connected. And it was interesting because he stopped talking and he just looked at me. It wasn't but a couple of seconds, but it was real. And we had that deep connection that was very powerful. And I always appreciated that.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
And one other thing to leave with people is, if you want something to do, is just sit down and get quiet and let your mind go and see if you can find the gaps between your thoughts.
Right.
And stay there.
That's where the power is.
All right. So we'll see you on the next one.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely. Because we continue to pursue that higher reality by spending a lot of time together on the edge of understanding.